No. Wrong song. What the heck is it doing? There we go. Hey, y'all. It's Chris. Guess what we're doing? Guess who's sitting here with me? I got Mr. Brandon Barnes sitting here. This is the guy who's running for sheriff. We've been talking about this. So let's give him his intro song. We were going to do karaoke, but...
Yeah, you don't want that.
But Brandon said he doesn't sing, so we decided we wouldn't do that.
I do sing.
Just not very well.
Just not very well.
Okay. Hallelujah, brother. That's me. I can't carry a tune in a bucket.
So a funny thing about that is people would always say, did you watch last night's episode of Cops? I don't watch Cops because it makes me feel like I'm at work. Like, if you're a surgeon, do you go home and watch ER?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, so I don't watch Cops.
Point. That's a good point, man.
Makes me feel like I'm at work.
So what we got here, I see Patricia. Hey, Patricia. Patricia is one of my normal, she wants us to do a rap.
Oh, well.
Well, if you can rap, I'll beatbox.
I'm not even going to try. No,
we don't rap. We're too white for rapping, probably. But, so I'm glad to see you guys here. We're going to get this thing going. Hey, Cassandra. We're going to get this thing going. Brandon's going to get a couple minutes here to say what he needs to say. Hopefully the audio is okay. I do have the air conditioner on because I figured I don't need to make the guy sweat. Because he's had to do enough of that already, I'm sure, having to wear sport coats and ties and all that junk to these forums. That's why we're doing it this way. Hey, Cassandra. Now, we do have questions.
Okay.
If you guys ask questions on here, Brandon has the option to read to check out those questions and answer them if he wishes. If time constraint kind of kills us and we can't do it, then we won't do it, and that's perfectly fine. Because our main thing is the 5 questions that we picked from the ones that came from the folks on the Facebook post. So
I'm totally doing the cop thing right now. I'm looking at everybody that pulls into the parking lot.
You know what? Growing up in a cop family, I do the same thing, especially at this part.
Yeah.
You got to look around here. So, and I guess I could have said, hey, do you know what's that smell?
Is it a bacon joke?
Yeah. And you'd be like, what smell?
No,
it's
so
like, I smell
actually,
bacon.
I was going to beat you to the punch on the donut joke, so I actually went and got
look
us
at
some
that.
donut holes from Dunkin' Donuts.
How cool of an officer is this that he brings his own donuts with him?
Well, so here's the thing, though. I've actually never eaten a donut on duty in over 22 years, and I've actually been offered a lot of money to eat a donut on duty, but it's the whole stigma of, cops and donuts.
Cops and donuts.
But I actually love donuts, and people think that I eat pretty healthy, but I'm not opposed to a good donut on the weekend.
See, now me, I'm not really supposed to eat sugar because I'm diabetic.
Okay.
Although, donuts are better for me than bagels.
Really?
Yeah, because bagels are so dense.
Yeah,
the carbs are a lot harder. So, yeah, actually, my doctor said...
So we're going to keep the donuts away from you, then?
Yeah, we'll keep the donuts away from me. If anybody's going to be eating donut holes, it's going to be the officer.
No.
I'll eat the bacon, though. I love bacon. Whew, that's like the...
Everything goes good with bacon.
Exactly. If you wrap that donut hole in bacon, I'm flat going to eat it. That's all there is to it. I'm eating that donut. So, hey, all right. So, hopefully we got a few people here, so... You know what? I don't want to waste Brandon's time. I want to give him the opportunity to say what he needs to say. So, without any further ado or any of that other stuff, it's all you, man.
Well,
Tell the people what you want to say for your opening statement.
Well, I really just want people to kind of get to know me a little bit better, actually. I think a lot of the forums we go to, there's a lot of questions that you have to ask, and it's a little more formal. And so in this environment, it's nice because I can just kind of relax, hang out with Chris, and answer questions and just let people know who I am. So I actually grew up not too far away from here, down in Lincoln, and I got my first job over at Yuba County Sheriff's Department a little over 22 years ago, and I've been there ever since, and I consider that to be my work family. But I've always, once I got my job in Yuba County, I moved up to the Yuba City area, and so for about the last 20 years, I've lived in Sutter County, and I'm a longtime Sutter County resident. I used to live down by Shanghai Bend, and about 12 years ago, I moved up to Live Oak. And so what I like about Live Oak is that it very much reminds me of the town I grew up in, which was Lincoln, right? Yeah. And so if you go down to Lincoln now, it just blends with Rockland and Roseville. It's just like, one big shopping center and, the casino. And so Live Oak's got that real kind of country hometown feel. I think we're up to 2 stoplights now.
So
I think we're doing big things up there in Live Oak right now.
All they need is a place to go eat.
Well, I thought I had heard somewhere we might be getting a Taco Bell up there, and I think if that happens, well, actually, that'll put us on the map. Although,
man,
Dutch Brothers has done a pretty good job.
Yeah, I bet they have.
And they're very supportive of the community, so they're a great community partner. But
that's good. That's good.
So with my time over at Yuba County, I mean, I started in corrections, and I was there for a very short period of time, and I got an opportunity to go to patrol, which was kind of always the goal when I went to the police academy. And I did that for a period of time, and then I was fortunate enough to get promoted to sergeant. Man. And so I supervised patrol at that point.
Oh, okay.
I had a shift that I ran, and we actually worked the graveyard shift for a pretty long period of time, but I had a great crew. And so, I had opportunities come my way. I managed to get into community policing around that time, did bike patrol. In about 1997, I got on the SWAT team. And so that kind of really helped kind of form who I became as an officer because, when you're on SWAT, it doesn't matter if you've been there, a year or 20 years. When you show up on scene and you got the SWAT pin on, everybody looks to you and expects you to be the person that responds and handles the more complicated calls. And so, I just kind of grew into that role, and I embraced it and I enjoyed it. And so while I was a sergeant, I had an opportunity to go into detectives. And the first month in detectives, we had two pretty major cases. One was a double homicide, and we spent about 3 straight weeks working on that. And I wound up having to fly back to Alabama to chase a suspect back there. But I just remember working so hard, I actually got really sick, and to the point where they actually had to give me a steroid shot to clear it up.
Well, you're probably not used to that good Southern food in Alabama.
Well, right. So, but what's funny is I remember going to Alabama, and I was so sick, I just had such a miserable time while I was there. But we got the bad guy, and that was the intended goal. But I didn't get to do it. I remember eating at Cracker Barrel, but other than that, that was about the highlight of the trip. Other than catching the bad guy.
Everybody eats at Cracker Barrel. Let me tell you
absolutely.
What. Yeah,
so
well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I supervised detectives. I got promoted lieutenant. I supervised detectives for a little over 3 years, and then I had an opportunity to go supervise patrol operations.
Okay.
So I did that, which was unique and fun, and I actually got to go out and ride around in a car and interact with the troops, and had a really great time doing that. But I always knew that at some point I wanted to promote higher up the ranks and become a captain, and so I had gone to Sheriff Durford at the time, and I said, hey, boss, do you mind if I go back to detectives and work some cases and get kind of one last run at, having a good time and being with my guys and my gals that I was supervising. And so I got to do that, and, about 4 years later, I got to promote to captain. And so, at that time, I knew that I possibly wanted to run for sheriff one day, and running a jail is a big part of a sheriff's department. And, unfortunately, right now, it's where a lot of the liability lies. And so I had asked if I could go and supervise the jail and kind of learn that side of the business, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And so I've been doing that for the last couple of years almost, and having a good time. And I got a lot of great people that I work with, and we hang out. We play softball together and do different things, and so it's been a really good experience for me. And I think I'm pretty well rounded. And kind of along the way, I managed to get my bachelor's degree in police management, and I think a lot of people know because I've mentioned before that I've gone to the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia, which is a really cool experience because on the weekends when you were there, you were at school during the week, but on the weekends you got to go out and sightsee. Yeah. And so I got to go to Mount Vernon and to all the museums downtown.
There's some gorgeous places back there.
Went to Gettysburg. We took a weekend trip up to New York, which was really neat. Cool. And so just a great experience, and gained a lot of leadership through that time over there. It was a 10-week program. Went to a similar program here in California that was actually 18 months, and it deals with strategic planning and a lot of things like that. And so the thing that was unique about that is none of the instructors were from law enforcement. They were from other fields. Oh, okay. So, you'd have professors. The guy that invented the strawberry Pop-Tart was one of our teachers, but he was talking about the business model that they came up with to promote it when they first made it. So
good
just
Pop-Tart.
Just a lot of unique experience. I'm a brown sugar and cinnamon kind of guy.
Brown sugar and maple and brown sugar, baby. There you go.
So I knew that Sheriff Parker was going to be retiring, and I will say truthfully, I think Sutter County has a much higher ceiling than they're reaching right now.
Yeah.
And as a public servant, I mean, you always want to try to give back to the community and, make things as good as you possibly can.
Of course.
I just figured I could either be the kind of guy that complains, or I could jump into the deep end and, learn how to swim. And so,
there you go.
So I chose to do that because I'm not much for complaining. So that's who I am.
Well, and that's an interesting place to try and swim, too. So that's really the deep end. So, okay, guys. So there's Brandon. I mean, now we're going to ask him some questions. And I promise you, these are not like little softball questions, like, the really easy stuff, like what would you do if you had to get a cat out of a tree? other than call the fire department, that kind of stuff. So our first one comes from one of our members, Bill McClemens, and says, please discuss the sanctuary state status and the role that the Sutter County Sheriff's Office will play with coordinating efforts with federal law enforcement agencies, and how are your actions going to make it safer for Sutter County residents?
Wow, there's a lot going on in that question.
Yes, there is. Bill never gives me easy ones. I like
all
that
right,
guy.
so obviously, I think everybody knows the climate in the state, and I'm actually glad to see that there are a lot of counties, including San Diego, that are opting out, and San Diego being closest to the border. If anybody understands the problem, it's those counties that are closer down there.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I would encourage the board to take similar action on this side of the river, although I don't know that they've come out and said a whole lot about it yet. Public safety is going to be my primary concern, and you got the MS-13 people and Norteños and Sureños and a lot of people that are coming up this way, from Mexico and places that are further south. And the reality is, we can't allow them to hide in our communities. And so, as the sheriff, I'm going to take whatever steps I can to protect our community and our public. And so my hope is that, that'll be found unconstitutional and it'll get overturned. And so we'll see how that plays out. But I certainly encourage the board to opt out of it. And I will just say that, I'm not going to allow criminals, regardless of their place of birth, to come into our community and hide. And so that's the bottom line on that. I will say I think there's a little bit of a misnomer that the sheriff's departments in general are going out and raiding farm camps and things like that. We don't do that. We don't have the resources to do that.
That's true.
And with all the other challenges we face with agricultural theft and the homeless issue, we just don't have unlimited resources to do those types of things. And so a lot of that has just been bad information. We're not out asking people their citizenship when they're, filing reports for, being a victim of a crime. You don't do those types of things. And so a lot of that's just been bad information and propaganda.
Well, and I mean, that's just part of what we're dealing with now. And I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if it came down to being your responsibility to handle what the feds want to handle, then that's a different story. But that's the feds' job. Let them do their job.
Well,
and you just assist them, basically.
But we have to have the ability to communicate with them. And so,
exactly.
This notion that, you can't report something to them, first of all, that's not entirely accurate. If you get somebody that comes into your facility and they have certain prior convictions on their criminal record, you can report that. The difference now is that before they would just drop off what they called an ICE detainer, and they'd say, hold that person for us, we'll pick them up. Well, now they actually have to have a federal warrant. Yeah. Just like if I was going to go make an arrest out in the community of somebody, I'd have to go get a warrant signed by our local magistrate.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, that threshold is very similar. So we still have the ability to do that if we, get our hands on a really bad guy.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. Okay, so the next one is from Chris Chilton. Now, Chris is actually a Yuba County guy, but that's okay because he does stuff over here too. But he wants to know, what is the plan to handle the... Well, and if I have to... Hey,
we're back.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's going on with the Wi-Fi in here.
So I hope everybody liked my response to that last question. So we move on to the next one.
Maybe we'll just say
I'm just teasing.
Jeff or Dennis or somebody is hijacking our Wi-Fi signal, right?
No, so the question was in regards to the homeless issue.
Yeah, what's the plan to handle the homeless problem?
Well, so, the homeless issue is not a sheriff's department issue. It's a community issue. I think we all can agree on that. And so the sheriff's department plays a small role in that in the enforcement aspect. Of course, we had that temporary restraining order that said we couldn't go down and issue citations for certain crimes because we don't have some other place to relocate them to. And so that's going to get itself worked out. Ultimately what needs to happen is we need to bring everybody to the table and we need to work together in cooperation to assist those that truly need assistance. Yeah. For those that don't or won't accept that assistance, I call those people squatters. And so for those people, we need to, enforce the applicable laws and try to get them out of there. I think I mentioned the other night at one of the forums we were doing, there's a couple things that really, kind of hit home with me. One is, over at the Sheriff's Department in Yuba County, we were actually looking for some nice pictures to hang on the wall, so we went to the public library and we asked for some old photos. And one of the photos we had was from 1937, but it was a picture of a homeless camp down in the river bottoms.
Oh, wow.
And it just kind of struck me like what a generational issue this is. And so there's not going to be a quick fix. In fact, if you go back even just to 2008, there was, less than 100 people down in the river bottoms that were actually documented that we knew about, and now that number's well over 1,000. Well, that's a 10-year span, and so reversing that and getting it to go the other direction is going to take time. And so, but I think we need to look to resources. Veterans Affairs is a good one because I know there's a lot of vets that are homeless living down there. Additionally, things we don't normally think about, like Fish and Game, who have some jurisdiction down there. Getting DMV on board to participate and actually get people identification cards so they can sign up for some of the other services that they need. And so, as sheriff, I'm certainly willing to, help facilitate all that and make sure that the sheriff's department is doing their part. And if there's an enforcement aspect, then we'll certainly do that. I've heard a couple good things right now. I think Glad Tidings is trying to do something where they're actually trying to move some people out there.
Yeah, they've made a big offer. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know what? To not take them up on that and work in partnership with somebody like that would be crazy. And so we've really got to look at that. Although I've talked to people out there and they said there's some problems with getting certain permits.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, we've got to be able to work past that and
exactly.
find reasonable solutions to some of these problems. And then the last part of that, I think, is I know from my investigative experience that spending time down in the river bottoms and investigating crimes, there are a fair number of people down there that if you were to run their personal information, you would find they are not from our community originally.
Yeah.
They migrated here from other places because this place has a reputation. And so we need to kind of reverse that trend as well and start reunifying them with their own communities, their own families, and making sure that they're using resources from the communities they came from, not ours. And so I think it's a big problem. Obviously, it's been around for generations, and so it's going to take somebody to roll up their sleeves and be committed for the long haul, which is why I think, as sheriff, I'm 45 years old. I've got a little bit of tire on the tread, and so I can be around to help facilitate that and make sure we're moving in the right direction, not just for the next 4 years, but well into the future.
Oh, gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. I can't argue with that. So this one comes from Liz for Cervantes. It's kind of a two-part, but why do you want this position, and what qualifications set you apart from the other candidates?
Okay. Well, the reason I want this position is, like I said earlier, kind of when I was, giving my opening statement, as a public servant, you feel a sense of responsibility, and so, not to sound too hokey, but with all the things that I've accomplished throughout the course of my 22-year career, going to the FBI Academy.
We're
back.
We're back.
So I was just saying, everything that I've accomplished over the course of my career, at some point you start truly feeling like it's leading you a certain direction.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't sure what that direction was until, I sat down one time and I looked in the mirror and I started looking about some of the problems in my own backyard, not just the Yuba County side.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I don't know of anybody that's better suited to take the reins of the sheriff's department and start fixing some of these problems than me.
Yeah.
And again, it was either, put up or shut up. And so I decided to jump in and see what I could do to make things better.
That makes sense, and it's kind of that serving the community you live in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I agree with that 100%. I worked in Yuba County and Yolo County and never worked in Sutter County, and asked myself, why have I never served the community that I live in?
Right. So, well, and I'll tell you what I love about Sutter County is that you cannot have a one-size-fits-all policing model because every community is so unique and different.
True.
Live Oak is different than Sutter. Sutter's different than East Nicholas, and so they all require different things, which is why you got to have a true community-based policing model where you get out into those communities, you're walking, you got boots on the ground, you're talking to people, and you're trying to figure out what impacts them. Because something down in the south part of the county is not going to be the same as
something up here.
Up here, it's just different.
But I think people feel more comfortable when they see officers, even if they're just driving through the community.
Absolutely.
They feel much better. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think, and of course, when we get more officers, that'll make a big difference.
That's been, since I decided to run for office, I can't tell you how many people now know where I live and they knock on my door. They just want to chat, which is fine.
I just want to say, I don't know where he lives, but he knows what car I have. So if y'all see me one day end up in jail because I wasn't supposed to be doing something, you'll know why. He knows what car to look for.
I'll just get your registration out of your
just
glove
get my
box,
registration.
and then I'll know where you live.
There you go. So now this one came from Joshua Collision.
Okay.
What makes a sheriff, and what do you believe should be the core value in a sheriff? I think it's a pretty good question. I like that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thinking back, I don't know if we got to the second part of Liz's question, but
the qualifications part.
Yeah, but we can go back to that.
He's paying more attention than I am, and I'm supposed to be hosting this.
So yeah,
thing.
to be the sheriff, you need attention to detail.
Yeah.
All right, so there, we just picked up on some details that we missed.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, who would have figured he was going to be a smart aleck in here with the host?
So let's go over that question again. I just want to make sure I have it. Right.
So which one, Liz's or Josh?
Let's go to Josh's.
Okay. What makes a sheriff, and what do you believe should be the core value in a sheriff?
Well, to be the sheriff, of any county, you need to understand that, you are the head law enforcement officer and you have overall responsibility for public safety. If you look back to the spillway incident and some of the information that came out after the fact on that, the grand jury has come out and said that, when you have that type of an incident, the sheriff is the overall authority for public safety in the county, over the chief of police, over anybody else that's in government.
I think that's why we saw the Butte County Sheriff really take control of
he did such an amazing job. So he was a tremendous leader under some very, stressful and unique circumstances, and everybody should model themselves after, what he did up there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And so, you have the responsibility for public safety, but part of that is understanding and looking to the future and understanding what's on the horizon. A sheriff, you become part of the State Sheriff's Association.
Yeah.
And so you will join committees and you will be part of, looking at legislation that's coming down the pike and trying to determine whether or not it's going to have a negative impact on your department and your community. SB 54 was a good example of that, right? The State Sheriff's Association, there were 4 contracted ICE facilities, detention facilities that housed ICE inmates. So that didn't affect a large percentage of the sheriffs, and so they had to determine whether that was the hill they wanted to charge up, and as a result, but those are the types of battles that you have to go out and you have to fight for your community and your citizens. And so there's a lot that goes on. Working with the board of supervisors, obviously, and directing the vision of the county is important. So that that plays a big part of it as well.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, nobody can argue with that answer. So, and then our last question is again from Bill McClemens. Like I said, he gave me like 7 or 8 great questions.
Okay.
I had to kind of...
Well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
Come through there and go, okay, Bill, you're killing me, but all right. Let's
it's good. We should have good questions that touch on important topics.
What is the greatest law enforcement need that you see that our community could benefit from that is not currently being provided by the Sheriff's Department?
Oh, well, I mean, that just ties into my whole community-based policing philosophy. Yeah. I mean, if you go to my website, which is barnesforsheriff.com, I've put my Barnes plan of action up there, and it talks about, being out and being actively engaged in the community, which is something that I'm just not seeing right now. And and I cited the other night, I mean, when you see Shop with a Cop that they do every year, I mean, that is such a tremendous thing. And, the people internally within the Sheriff's Department that help put that together, they do such a great thing for this community. But we need to see more of that, and we need to see it from the leadership within the department, not just the line staff. And so, one of the first things that I'm going to do is I'm going to establish what I'm calling a community response team. And so that's going to be both sworn and non-sworn personnel within the department. So the sworn personnel are going to have the proactive aspect of things. The non-sworn are going to focus more on neighborhood watch programs and things like that will promote the department in a positive light. But I want to extend the invitation to, DA investigators, the police department, if they're willing to get on board, the highway patrol, code enforcement. We need to bring all these people together so that if we have a problem in our community, we have the flexibility and the resources to immediately respond. And so if we've got a homeless issue popping up, let's respond to it, let's take care of it, and let's impact the community. Yeah. If, you got something going on at the school and there's a potential, social media threat or something, and we need resources to go, protect our kids, then we're going to deploy to that.
There you go.
And so it's just community policing and being out and being the face of the organization and setting the example, volunteering, showing up where it matters. I think that's the biggest thing you can do.
No, I mean, it makes sense. And in that arena, because of the, how big social media is, having that community policing thing, I think, really helps you out, because then you have people who are able to see those possible, whether they be minor or not, or credible or not, threats that come across social media.
Well,
then you guys can look into.
Yeah, and every one of those has to be taken seriously right now.
Yes, they do. Yes,
they do. The lives and the protection of our children are nothing you're going to gamble with, and so
exactly.
You do not just say, it's another social media thing. You absolutely have to go after every one of those and make sure you investigate those and exhaust all your resources to follow through on those.
Yeah. Another answer you can't argue with. Now, I said I was only going to do 5 questions. There is a 6th question that is not on my sheet here.
Okay.
It was one that came from... Okay, so kind of give you a little background on it. I went to the meet and greet that the Board of Realtors did, and of course, Brandon is there.
I was there.
And I made a mental note that it seemed like every time I went by his table, there was only women there talking to him. And I even teased him about it, I think, a little bit. But then I had this one question. A lady sent it to me by message. She goes, can you ask Brandon if he's ever going to do a calendar and if he'll be Mr. December so I can unwrap him? And I'm like, dude, that's crazy. But you know what? I got to see if I can turn the guy as red as the signs, right?
Yeah, no, I'm actually blushing. So I will
Jennifer,
say,
you're safe, I'm sure.
Yeah, I am happily married and I love my wife very much. But I will say this, though. If I do get elected sheriff, I think it would be fun to maybe do a promotional calendar.
I think so.
But we could, instead of, like a beefcake thing, we could just reenact like famous scenes in history. So we could do like crossing the Delaware. We could do like crossing the Feather River or something like that.
Maybe famous cop movies.
Ooh, yeah, there you go.
That would be fun, and I'll be your photographer for it. And I won't even charge. This would be fun. I mean,
and then we'll give all the proceeds to like one of the charities in our community that benefit kids.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be great. Wow. Okay, so I don't remember the lady's name, and if I did, I wouldn't say it anyway. So there's your answer. No, do not get to unwrap Brandon in December. Okay, so if that should not be a reason for you to not vote for him. So just keep that in mind. Okay, he's still a good guy. So I guess now, I mean, and if somebody has a question, I mean, I'm trying my best to see them. Why are you voting for Brandon Barnes? Brandon, why are you voting? Brandon?
Well, I'm voting for myself because I think I'm the best candidate. I hope that answers the question.
That is the question of the day from Joe. That's actually you.
And I encourage everyone else to vote for Brandon Barnes as well.
Now that's Yuba Sutter Joe.
Oh, okay.
That's Yuba Sutter Joe from Political Spotlight.
Okay.
And I love the guy. He's great. But yeah, Brandon, why are you voting for Brandon? I mean, people have asked that question in the past. If you were voting for something, do you vote for yourself or somebody else?
No, I
think vote for yourself. That might be the one vote that wins.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I don't vote for myself and I lose by 1, I'm going to be sorely disappointed.
No, see, there's Cassandra. The naughty cop calendar would sell better, which means we get more money to give to the nonprofit. See, these are the kind of folks I have on this page, man. Are they great or what?
Believe me,
I love this stuff.
I'm far too old to be doing a calendar like that.
Well, and just so you know, he's not that far behind me. I mean, I'm obviously a lot older, but he's not that far behind me.
Yeah, so. I did want to say, so I didn't want you to be left out today. So
yeah, so he had to do the black hat thing.
But I didn't have enough time to grow the facial hair.
That's all right. This is a long time, man. Mine takes forever to grow. So
mine comes in just as gray as yours, though. So
that's actually a good question there, Brian. The homeless that refuse help, do they end up in the jail?
Well, they can. So initially, the citation is going to be either an infraction or a misdemeanor, and so they'll get a citation. Again, we'll try to direct them to services, but ultimately they're going to be given a court date and they're going to have to go and answer for the citation that they get. And if they don't show up to answer, it'll turn into a failure to appear warrant.
FTA, baby.
Yeah, FTA. And then eventually they will wind up in custody, yes.
And then they're in the NCIC database. That's always a good thing because we can find a lot of people that way. Somebody did tell me, and I believe they were an officer one time for Sutter County, that it doesn't do a lot of good to try and do anything with them because if they get a fine, they can't pay it.
Right.
And I said, well, yes, they can because they're getting money from our county. Just like you would attach somebody's wages to pay their fines, you attach their welfare check to pay that fine. So.
Well, there's always community service. I mean,
exactly.
There's a lot of things that can be done in our community to
I'm
help
a big
clean
fan
up.
of chain gangs. I think they're a good thing. I mean, I think they're actually a really good deterrent to people doing the smaller crimes.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe that's because I grew up in the South, but either way. Well, you know what? Hey, Jacqueline, you know what, guys? We've kept Brandon here for quite a while, and I'm sure he's a lot busier than you guys probably know and probably has a lot more important things to do than sit in here with me. So we're going to go ahead and let him kind of give a closing statement, and then we'll get him out of the car, and I'll go have dinner. So
what you don't know is his wife dropped him off, and she's kind enough to actually be sitting out in the park reading right now.
Yeah,
so
she's sitting over there reading.
I think she wants her car back.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. She probably does.
Well, I just wanted to thank you, actually, Chris, for this opportunity.
Man,
this
this
has
is
been
fun.
a lot of fun. Again, my resume, I think, speaks volumes. I've been, based in this community for well over 20 years, and, I do a lot of work. I'm a member of Kiwanis. I'm actually on the board for the Agents of Change, which is a nonprofit organization that does a lot of work for kids. Right. And we have the Bash Against Cancer every year. And so, I think I'm well-rounded. I think that my resume speaks for itself. I'm vested in this community and will continue to be for a long period of time. I just hope that everybody, will take the time to do their research on, all three of the candidates, and hopefully we'll select the best sheriff to lead Sutter County into the future. And, please take the time to go to my website, again, which is barnesforsheriff.com. Look over my action plan, and if you have any questions, feel free to either email me through the site. You can request a yard sign through the site, or you can just give me a call as well. My phone number is listed on there. So appreciate everybody's time, and thank you for all the great questions.
Well, and the other thing is if you guys didn't notice it, if this sheriff thing doesn't work out for him, he can be a promo guy. He promoted this live more than I did.
I have good people. It's all about the team.
Oh, see, he didn't do it himself. Other people did it for him. Oh, okay, that's good. But no, at least it was being promoted, right?
I was busy running a jail today. So
there you go. Well, and I know a few folks who work over at Yuba County, and a couple that work in they're the finance people in the jail, and they love this guy to death. So, he can't be a bad guy, right? So there you go. But no, Brandon, I really do appreciate you coming up, man. This was a lot of fun.
No, I had a good time.
I think the folks probably had a lot of fun. That was the other thing that was the goal here, is to let you guys have some fun and not have to go back and watch these boring, where you got some 80, 90-year-old guy going, well, if you had to do this, what would you do? And asking them these boring questions. I wanted you guys to be able to see Brandon, the guy Brandon, the man Brandon who's a part of this community, not just the guy who's running for sheriff, So again, everybody, I do appreciate you guys showing up. Hope you enjoyed this. We'll be doing another one of these on Friday at 5 p.m. with another candidate, Dennis Houck. And, hopefully you guys will have plenty of stuff to do with that one too. So I guess we will talk to you guys later, and I'm going to let Brandon get out of here because I'm sure you probably have to go see his family and maybe have some dinner.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Have a good one, guys.